So after weeks and weeks of talking about doing it, I finally did it. So I've been talking about wanting to do a BlackWater aquarium for a while, and the Fluval Flex has been sitting empty for a while as I kind of pondered what was next for it. Well, I've decided to try a BlackWater aquarium with a lot of botanicals and things like that, and also making some cool mods to the Flex so it can accept the Kessel light. That's all coming up right after this.
What's up, everybody? This is Brian O'Leary with Psychotic Aquatics, and you're watching Pecktec on YouTube.
Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec, and I finally finished my Flex BlackWater aquarium. We're going to go over exactly how this came together. But first, for why I did it. One, I've always wanted to try different kind of aesthetics when it comes to keeping aquariums. And there's a lot of different versions of the BlackWater tanks. There's some with no plants, there's some with like half planted and that sort of thing. Now, what does BlackWater mean? So BlackWater is basically, it's a more natural environment. It's speaking to the tannins that leaves and wood and different botanicals release. In a nutshell, figuratively, it's the things that are released from these natural components into the water. And it turns the water like a tea color. Gives it a tint. Gives it that tint. I didn't get much of that because I actually boiled the hell out of my botanicals and my leaves and my wood. But why would you do it? Okay, so one, it's a little bit healthier for the fish. It provides, there's some nutrients that are in those tannins and things in the water that have been, now I'm no expert on this, but it's been rumored that they can help with all kinds of different things. Especially almond leaves. Almond leaves are by the people that raise bettas like en masse. You know, the people, the real experts and stuff. They will tell you that they're great for all kinds of different things. Some have said fungal. They'll help with fungal issues, and they just seem to have a lot of natural benefits that I'm not qualified to say are true or not true. One thing's for certain, it really doesn't hurt the fish, and many times I think it'll be more natural, more what that fish would experience in the wild. There's also something really interesting and satisfying instead of trying to do a carpeting plant or something that's low, just to put some leaf litter and clutter and stuff down there. It looks surprisingly interesting. Like there's all the different textures and colors and stuff. It makes it really neat. So it's aesthetically pleasing. It's a little bit more natural. It's a little bit closer towards a biotope. A lot of people have said that they want me to do a biotope tank, and I find them usually boring. Like I don't want to be stuck with a bunch of rules. Like I have to do this plant and this fish. You know, I just kind of want to put it together and make it look nice and be what I want it to be. And that's about it for the why for me. I mean, I thought it would be neat if the fish like it and it's aesthetically interesting. You know, I thought I'd give it a try. But I'm not going for a biotope from any particular region. I'm just going for, you know, stuff that looks nice. I try to arrange this stuff so it looks natural, but I'll tell you what, I methodically placed every leaf in here just for this video. What happens after this, you know, it happens. But I wanted it to look nice at first. Just start off on a good start. Before we get into the setup, I wanted to tell you about a mod that I made. So I bought a big light, and I put it on one of the lights downstairs. That light went over my 27-gallon cube so I could tie them all together. And then the one that was on the cube, the older Kessel light, I brought up here. I unboxed this thing like 4 or 5 years ago on my channel. One negative, and you might have noticed on the audio, I'm trying to talk as close to the mic as I can so that I'll be able to maybe edit out some of the sound. But this thing is really loud. The fan in it's getting old and it's pretty loud. So I don't know. If I buy another big light downstairs, it might swap out for this one, and then I could put another controller on it and really do control the, you know, the time it comes on and off and play with all that cool stuff. But as you remember, these came with that big black plastic lid and that little LED strip, you know, attached to the inside of it. I decided to pull all that off, and I found a number of brackets. I found a bunch of the little small ones that just kind of clip along the sides, and then I found these two bigger ones. Now, I actually bought all this stuff for the face tank, because I was going to do the exact same thing I did here with the face tank and put a lid on top of it because I got sick of all the evaporation. And I was paranoid that, if I put a betta in there or something like that, they would jump out. I ended up going with some other fish in that tank, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, I got these big clips, and they were just too huge to put on the face tank, so I kind of put them aside. But then when I started looking at this thing again, I went, wow, those would be perfect to hold a lid on top of here. Now, unfortunately, I bought them so long ago. I mean, like almost probably 9 or 10 months ago, and I cannot find the transaction. So I don't think I did it on, I don't think I bought them on Amazon. It must have been eBay or something like that, and I cannot find them. So I'm sorry, I usually provide a link. I did find some other alternative clips that kind of hung a little bit lower, and I didn't think were appropriate. Like, I couldn't find any that were actually thin enough to go on some of the glass that I had. But I have some alternative clips in my Amazon list if you want to check it out. And if I ever do find the other ones, I'll be sure to provide a link wherever they are. The other thing I did is I went to a local glass cutter, and after I made a couple of measurements on top, I had him cut a glass shelf for me, because trying to explain it's an aquarium lid is it was too difficult. But I just told him I wanted a glass shelf and the kind of nice big thick piece of glass. It looks amazing on top of here. It is really a different experience to look down. Now, yes, there's a lot of condensation and you can't see through it perfectly, but it's you can still see through it enough, and especially right after a water change, you kind of squeegee that off. It's really cool. Also, it's extremely easy because this thing just slides back and forth to get in there and feed the fish, do whatever maintenance you'll need to do. Quick maintenance on the filter or something like that. And I just mentioned that because I've been putting a little bit of stability in. I took seasoned biological material out of the sump downstairs and I added it in straight away, and I've been throwing a little bit of stability in there. Yeah, I really love having the glass lid. That is probably my favorite thing about the new setup. The one hiccup I had is that I went about an inch too long to account for the Kessel light. So the Kessel light has this bracket, and it fits on a certain way. It clips on there, and it sticks out kind of far, and it sticks out above where this glass is going to hit. So this glass actually stops at the light, and it's good in that sense that it's a kind of a stopper to keep that thing from just being slid, somehow bumped and slid off the back. But it also made it stick out like a little bit too far. So what I did was I took a CD. I just took a Gregorian chant CD. You guys remember that from a few years ago? I should have put it in the mail and sent it to Mike from Mass Aquariums to help his music selection out. Anyway, I took a Gregorian chant CD and I kind of used it as a wedge in the back, and I tightened it down. It seemed to work okay. It's probably not the best choice, but it's what I had available because like the CDs are, All right, so that's the lid and the light, but let's talk about how I actually set it up. Let's run it down. Alright, so now that I've got my base down and the fluorite, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do what I call caking it. So I'm just going to kind of make it to a nice flat square with sort of a little bit of a tapered front. So I want it to be more sand there than this stuff. This particular shape of this glass is such that you're never going to get it like, it's going to be really difficult to get it perfect and get it all the way to the front too. So I just do it a little bit lower. I'm not going to worry about, seeing a little bit of it. Sometimes it's neat to see the striations, especially on the side. But I prefer it on the side and not be, so it's not so distracting on the front. I'm going to just kind of even this out a bit. Always keep in mind that there are vents in the corner down here. You want to avoid getting stuff in those. Of course, stuff just kind of climbing up the wall there isn't going to do you like it. So smooth that out too. Design-wise, a lot of people will tell you to slope it out to the background, and that's true. But I don't usually do that with the base layer. The base layer just go for more of an even keel, and this is just this is mainly for the plant's roots. And it gives you something to really dig into when you go into this thing and you go to plant. It'll give you something crunchy to plant in. Those gaps will leave a lot of space for bacteria to propagate and stuff, so so that'll help there. I've decided to use this sand. I usually use pool filter sand, something way cheaper than this stuff, but I'm doing a really small aquarium, and I've never actually bought sand like this. I've never bought sand made for aquarium. I've tried pool filter sand and I've tried playground sand. So I thought I'd try this just for fun. It's it's just a little bit darker than like pool filter sand would be. So let's try it out. Also, I think you're supposed to rinse this, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to put it in there and we'll see what happens. Okay? I did rinse. Of course, I rinsed this. You have to rinse that, of course. So with the fluoride, I went through the normal process. I used my bucket system. I've got a bucket with holes in the bottom of it, and I use it to drain this stuff out. As you can see, it's still a big muddy mess. But yeah, so I drain it, and boy, when you throw some water through that, you'll see why you need to rinse that out, man. It's got tons and tons of stuff, and I heard a lot of comments last time I showed me cleaning the substrate out. I was like, oh, you washed away all the nutrients. Well, no, that's not true. All this stuff is just the loose versions of what's already here. So as this stuff breaks down and crumples up and stuff, there'll be more of the stuff that I rinsed away. I got a lot. I'm good, guys. I'm good. All right, now that the sand's in, I can start to kind of mess with the shape, give my terrain a little bit of dimension and that sort of thing. See, I've got it sort of piled up on this side. That'll give me support to put some wood and things in, like I imagined. I'm going to take a rock or something kind of hard and put it right here. And the reason I'm going to do that is when I fill this in, I'll probably do it from the back. And as you fill it from the back, it'll come out these holes as it starts to fill up. So the water's going to shoot out here when it fills up. So I always compensate with that with like some hardscape or some rocks or something. I'm just going to play with the spider wood. Of course, it's been boiled and it's been soaking, so it'll sink really easily. My rule for the wood is just to keep it. One, I like for the branches to go in the direction of the water flow. But I also want to make sure to keep them off the glass. I don't ever want to have to scrape around it. And I've got some smaller ones just to really mix this up. Lots of branches. Just make it really interesting in there. To deal with that vent, in the back corner, I'm going to use a rock, and I'm not going to necessarily block this vent, but I'm going to, well, I am going to block it for now. But I'm going to leave a wide enough gap there to where water can make its way through there. You know, really small fish will still be able to get back there. And of course what this is going to do is it's going to divert. It's going to be kind of a splash point for the water when it comes draining in, which is going to happen in a few minutes. I like to include a few more than I need just to sort of camouflage that area a little bit. Make it look more natural. Of course, we want to leave room for plants and other things. Might even have this come over it a little bit. There you go. Okay, so over on this side, I'm going to start off with a plant that's in just about every tank. It's a Cryptocoria Wendetti, I think. That's what it is. And I like to make a nice little bushy spot sort of towards the front, just to give the fish some space to run around behind, and usually to hide ornaments and other things like that. But I'm not going to put much of that plant in here. I've got that plant in a lot of tanks. Whenever I start a new tank, though, I like to add it and just see how it does. Because so far, you know, sometimes not at first, but eventually it does well in just about any tank that I put it in. So it's a really versatile plant, really interesting. My tank was absolutely overrun with this. It's called Jungle Val, and it gets much too tall typically for an aquarium like this. I'm going to add it anyway, and it's going to be sort of my my floating plant. So it's going to help keep the light from being too overbearing on some delicate plants like the Anubis and stuff like that aren't used to a lot of light. And this will spread around and be a nice, yeah, this eventually will be the main plant in the aquarium if it goes the way I think it will go. I'm just guessing based on what I've seen so far. This will eventually go around and take over. Maybe even the whole tank if I let it. This here is an Anubis nana that I've pulled out of another aquarium, out of the 55, the dirted 55. And it's just going to straddle all this wood and bring it all together. Spread it around a little bit like this. Just sort of cradle it in the arms of this wood here. You know, for a BlackWater tank, I think we better get to what BlackWater actually is. Alright. So I think I'll start with the leaf litter first. I'm just going to spread it around. So odd, I'm so used to pulling this out. Yeah, the 55 sort of paid the price. The big Anubis is right here, and all that that jungle valves through there, but it looks a lot cleaner in here now. Yeah, so that was a really fun project to do. I had a lot more fun than I thought I would. You know, I thought putting leaves and stuff in there would be just sort of frustrating and look sloppy, but I love the look of this tank. I'm really in love with it. I had ordered some plants from useplant.com, and I actually planned on using them in another aquarium altogether. But they were having a sale, and I wanted to get some. And they happened to come the exact same day I was setting this up, so I ended up throwing about 3/4 of them into here. I'm not sure how any plants are going to do. I do want to tint the water up a little bit. It's like a little bit too clear. There's something that it was on the literature that Scott provided with the tannin stuff, and it said, just to go slow, always clean your stuff, but to go slow and just kind of add things a little bit here and there. So I didn't want to go completely nuts. I wasn't sure what to expect, like if it was going to be completely brown. I watched a number of videos that really helped me a lot. Of course, I watched George Farmer. Was kind of like, I think he's the first one where I kind of started thinking about it again, and I was like, I'd really like to do that. And of course, Rachel O'Leary did one with the tannins where she added the Enigma pack, and that's why I ended up buying one. I've seen some stuff from Tank Tested, and there was another really great one, especially if you're going to go out and you can go find some of these leaves and things yourself. It's real important that you know exactly what leaves are safe and what aren't, and that make sure that you really identify the leaf and you know what it is. There was one video that I thought was really useful, but it's all in a foreign language, and but he does have some subtitles so you can read it. But he does a lot of leaf identification, kind of does like, if you go out into the forest, you can pick these leaves and use them. So I'm going to put a link to his video down there. Don't be mad that it's subtitled. There's probably some stuff that I'll change in this aquarium eventually. I'm not too sure about the jungle val in there. Like, I almost think it could have worked without that, or maybe I could have done something else. Some of that long drapey stuff. Sometimes it gets annoying after a while. We'll see how this picks up. And if I add tannins, I'm not sure. Like, I'm hoping that it'll be just dim enough that the Anubis can grow and be pretty healthy, but not like get a bunch of algae being right under a light like that. And although the light's pretty strong, it's actually kind of old. I mean, I've had it going, every day for quite a few years. And contrary to popular belief, LEDs do lose their intensity after a period of time. The color still looks good, at least visually. It's definitely a little bit dimmer than, like the 20 gallon back here. I can definitely see a difference in color, in the clarity of the water. But it's only been, at this point, about 3 days. So we're going to just kind of let it set and see if it, gets browner and browner and browner over time. So while I was boiling this stuff, I kind of lost track of time, and I was working on some miniatures for a game, and then I guess I let it boil for maybe an hour and a half. It was in there a really long time, longer than I meant to. But I put it in the bucket and rinsed it, and there was not a lot of tannins left, I guess, by the time I put it in here. In the George Farmer video, he takes a bucket and he pours the boiled tannins into there, and it's just like completely brown. So that's a little bit too hardcore for me. Plus, he wasn't putting plants inside of there either. So I'm hoping to kind of split the difference. I wanted to be able to look in there and kind of observe things, especially in the short term, because I'm off work all this week. And it's one of the few times I get to like set up a tank and like really mess with it over the course of a couple of days and make a proper video about it. As far as the botanicals, I mean, most of the stuff you see here is from tannins. You can also get it from my aquarium box. My buddy's there. They have pods and shells and catappa leaves and different types of acorns and all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm going to be adding some stuff that they sent me into here too. Like I said, I'm going slow. I got this stuff from tannins probably a week or so before I got the other stuff from my aquarium box, and I was already underway boiling it and getting it ready. But this has been so much fun. I could definitely see, I mean, this might be something I do on a more regular basis. Like, I like the look of this so much more than I thought I would. I guess really my next mission for this tank is to, put fish in there. And I've got a lot of choices just like within my house, because I'm trying to break down the 55, so I kind of need to rehome some of the fish that are in there. What I'd like to do is I've got some tetras. I've got a lot of tetras in that tank, and I'd like to collect all the neon green tetras and put them in here. I think there's maybe 7 or 8 of those. I've got a farewell of catfish that I think would work out nicely in here. I think he'd look like a lot of the sticks that are in the bottom. That'd be kind of neat. And they're dumb and easy to catch. I only have one ram left, and she's getting pretty old. But rams don't live that long, and I got them a long time ago. So one of them died the other day, and now I just have the female. I might be able to throw the female in there and let her finish out her days in a nice tannin tank. And what I really like to try, I'd like to try some checkerboard cichlids. They've got a bunch down at the aquarium, and so I'm just kind of waiting to see, if I can quickly get this thing cycled up and ready for fish. I really like for the plants to take a hold before I start adding fish. So we'll just kind of see how that pans out. But I'd like to try some checkerboards. I thought maybe about apistogrammas or something like that too, but I've kept them a bunch of times before, so I'd like to try something I haven't tried, and also like rehome some fish that need to move around a little bit. So back in the Black Friday episode last month of my Aqua Shopper Gone Wild video, I was talking about how I bought that light and all this stuff. Well, it turns out I got a fish credit that went along with all those purchases at my local fish store. So while I was shopping, I decided to get a few other things. So for the 16-gallon downstairs, I got some rosy loaches and some celestial pearl danios to kind of fill out those mid to bottom water segments of the tank. The half-beaks have their territory up top, and I'll have a middle and a bottom. So far, they all get along together, and I see the celestial pearl danios out quite a bit more than I'm used to. I really love those fish. For some reason, they're my favorite, the little teeny tiny fish. And they've been doing real good in the 8-gallon. They're getting super fat. The ones in the 8-gallon are really chubby, so I'm going to have to fatten these new guys up, get them to match. That's been a real fun project for me. I hope you've enjoyed sharing it. And until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's sort of the why. Let's jump. I guess the final why would be I want to keep some fish like in the leaves and stuff like that, and see I don't know, see how they react. See if it I don't know. And I've got a lot of choices. I'm trying to, and I've got a lot of choices in it. From different organic components in your aquarium that turn the color organically. Tannins are the same thing that are in tea or in wine. It's a discoloration caused by the stuff that's, how do you say that?